everyone, my name is Sam and thanks for checking out this video. Make sure to hit the subscribe button down below, the bell notification, and give the video a thumbs up. So as always, I want to talk about the books that I read this week. The first book that I read was The Hundredth Queen by Emily King. This was an interesting book. It's a retelling of I can't remember what the name of it is. So our main character is chosen to be the 100th wife of the Tsar King guy. And because of the religion that they follow, the rule is that once you hit 100 wives, there's like a duel that happens. And, you know, survive. Like, that's the kind of premise. And it follows our main character. She finds out, why she's chosen, but she was given to this kind of like nunnery kind of thing of this world, and with a couple other girls, and kind of preserved there and raised to be either wives or concubines of these royalty, or they're kind of higher up people. So that was like kind of a weird, really weird part of it. The difficult, or like the plot conflict, I guess, wasn't the whole like some guy having 100 wives and being super sexist about it, but it was more of he's kind of killed 100 wives because of this other story. So that was a little weird for me, as well as who wants 100 wives? And that's not even including like the concubines and everything like that. Who wants all that? But I may read the next book in the series. I'm not totally sure. The ending really did get kind of interesting. There's a lineage reveal, but there's a lot of magical politics going on that really doesn't come up to the forefront, I don't find, until like the second half of the book. So the first half of the book I kind of struggled with, but it's alright because the book itself is only like 300 pages, I think. No, 287 pages. So like maybe 125, 30 pages were like meh for me, but I liked the second half of it. So I have to decide if I want to read the rest of the series. I don't know, totally 100% sure. The whole just 100 wives and he's not the villain until something else evolves into that. I'm like, no, I think you're kind of a douchebag at that point anyways. But it also had a lot of insta-love, so not my cup of tea, and it was very all of a sudden like, oh, and by the way, you're in love with them, and like, even though you know that there's no good way that this is going to end, neither of you are going to seem to acknowledge that in the way that I would expect it to be done. So I think I ended up giving this book like a 3 out of 5 stars. Like I said, I'm not totally sure if I'm going to give the next book a go. I really do like the covers of this series though. They all have like the hand doing different things, and I see on each of the books that the magic is evolving, and on the last book I think it's a ball of fire. So I'm really curious if that's how the magic is going to progress, so I may go look at the reviews and summaries a little bit more. And then I'm working my way to Kings of the Wild by Nicholas Eames. This is, how do I explain this book? I can't say kind of like Sebastian de Castell, because that assumes everyone's read Sebastian de Castell, but the authors have kind of similar vibes in their books. This book didn't have the comedy aspect that I was expecting and hoping it to have. I've heard the author talk before at like an author signing event, and I assumed that there's some more comedy. Maybe it's just not the comedy that I intake, or it didn't come across the right way to me. But it follows these characters who are beyond their prime. They used to be in this kind of roving band that would fight all like the bad guys around this kingdom. But they've all kind of grown up. They've all married and had kids. They're all in different situations, and they haven't like stayed super in touch. But one of the characters' daughter, she goes on this kind of quest that seems very ill thought out, and they know that she's headed for danger, and then they hear all of the chaos going on in the geographic area where they know she's going. So they kind of get back together in order to help our dude find his daughter. And there's a lot of politics that come up along the way, a lot of old resentments and feelings within like the people that they used to fight come up, and you go on the adventure kind of around different parts of this kingdom, and you can see kind of the name recognition as well as how things have changed. The bandits used to like go and quest themselves, whereas nowadays in the modern time, it's all like they have domes, and it's almost like a gladiator duel thing, which causes a lot of the problems that come up later on in this book. And I also thought it was very funny because I've heard almost identical conversations, or really I've been a part of them, where they're like, oh, back in my days, I didn't have help paying for school, and I came out and I pulled myself up on my bootstraps, and you're like, okay, cool, but the debt is the equivalent to like triple of what you had, and our income is like a quarter of what you had. So it was kind of like that conversation that you, as millennials, pull your hair out trying to get like 60-something-year-olds to try and understand inflation, and it's kind of just translated into this world of fighting and battles and creatures and adventures. My only kind of problem with this is I found a lot of the main characters be kind of dull, in all honesty. I enjoyed the writing, I enjoyed the questing. I just found the side characters more interesting. So I kept being like, hey, cool, can we just like move on from like your story time chapter and get on to this like zombie guy, because he's really funny and super interesting. I want to know more about him. Don't care so much more about you who like loves your wife but she's at home. You're like, cool. That's not interesting. So I think I definitely will read the sequel. I'm also going to recommend to a couple people I think that will really enjoy it. But I was just really like, kept anticipating like comedy and it just didn't come. So I feel like that if that had been inserted, then it would have helped me maybe enjoy the main characters more, or help me pick up the plot when they were doing that kind of questing where nothing happens kind of situation. So I ended up giving this book like I think a 4 out of 5 stars, and I would actually recommend it. It was alright. I finally read in a day, I think in actually less than 12 hours, and I worked for 8 of those hours. Yeah. I read The City of Bastards by Andrew Schwartz, an author with the most unfortunate last name, but oh my god, I love this book more than the first one. The series is so underhyped, I don't understand it, and I don't know that I can really say much about this one because it spoils a lot of the first one. So basically all the same main characters in a different geographic location, and there's a lot of people that come back from the dead kind of concept. Not like actually coming back from the dead, but like people who we thought were kind of gone after Royal Bastards. But they come back, and there's this kind of underworld city on top of the city, and both of them have a lot of problems going on. And as always, you know, there's the good guys and the bad guys, and you find out the good guys and the bad guys don't have a ton of differences. So, yeah, and we follow our main character, and so much more unfolds. And I really, really want to reread the first one, because it's been like over a year, I think, since I read this one. Since I read Royal Bastards, so I can reread this one and then probably pick up on a couple extra things that I missed this first time. All in all, 5 out of 5 stars. Love this book. Whipped through it. If you liked the first book, I would be floored if you did not like this book. And I can't wait for the third book. It doesn't have a release date or a title or cover, but I will allow the author a month or so, because I think he did a couple like tours and stuff like that, to give me this information. But I'm dying. Come on, man. Come on! And I just love this series, and the cover is like, oh, bomb. I love this cover so much, and it's such a good representation of the book itself. So, yeah. 5 out of 5 stars. Highly recommend. And lastly, this week I started and finished A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. I originally started an audiobook because I rolled the dice on my game board game that I'm playing, and I landed on Paranormal, I think. So I was going for this, but my physical copy just kept getting delayed and delayed from the library. So I was like, screw it, I'll just listen to the audiobook. And then this showed up on like the last day I was reading. So I read the last like 4 chapters, but my review is really based mostly off of the audiobook. So this follows our main character. Oh, what's her name? I honestly can't even remember her name is anymore. The dude's Matthew, but who's the chick? Diana. The main character is Diana, and she's this, like, genius whiz, and she's got a PhD in some sort, I think it's, like, science history or something like that, and she is, like, a tenure professor at Yale at, like, 20-something years old. She's super smart. She's on sabbatical in England right now, and her family is, openly within the family, has witchcraft, and she knows that she has powers, but she refuses to use it because she thinks it caused the death of her parents when she was younger. So she doesn't want it to influence her, and she knows that magic comes at a cost. And then, however, ironically, Oxford is filled with demons, vampires, werewolves, fairies. Every mythical paranormal thing is in here. And then our other main character is Matthew. He's a vampire, and I guess they live in the world where interspecies relationships are, like, not cool. And he is also a professor at not Oxford, but university around Oxford, I think it was. And that's really all that I mean, they meet, they have a ridiculously cheesy insta-love romance with very little development, and that is basically what happens in the, like, 700 pages or something like that. 600 pages, sorry. In all honesty, I would summarize this book as Twilight with PhDs. I don't know if that's good or bad in your point of view, but really nothing happens. Nothing. They're building up to something, I think, but, like, nothing happens. I couldn't point out any event in here that made it a climax either. Most of the book, like, overwhelmingly, I'd say at least 2/3, is just Matthew and Diana suddenly being together, and there's really no build-up to it. There's very little thought that goes into the background. It's very distinctly clear that there's, like, a big thing in society, that they'll be breaking a lot of rules, and a lot of things are going to become dangerous if those two get together. And they've known each other for, like, maybe 2 weeks. Maybe 2 weeks. And she thought he was going to kill her because he was a vampire for a good chunk of it. Like, and there's just no thought of her of, like, maybe I should evaluate this to make sure my family's okay, or, like, think on it, or have a discussion, and, like, no. There's also a good chunk of this book that talks about her being hungry, eating, going to sleep, and waking up from bed. Like, an awful lot of times I kept noticing. I think I stuck with my 2 out of 5 star rating that I did before. I don't see myself continuing the series. I'm interested in the TV show. Maybe the magic will be cool. And most of this book, if not all, is basically Diana and or Matthew's POV. But from what I understand about the show, it's going to have multiple points of view. So that might be more interesting, and to see all the magic and powers done really well. That would probably appeal to me. Sorry if you like it, though. So those are all the books that I read this week. Let me know in the comment section down below what you read this week. And if you've read any of these, I would love to know your thoughts. Make sure to check the description box down below. I will link all of these books to their Goodreads pages, and I have all of my social media stuff linked there as well. If you follow me, I will follow you back.